Good Wednesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock and time for Sports4CLE. Browns training camp is underway out in Berea. A little later in the show, Browns beat reporter Dan Labbe from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com will join us. A little bit later in the show, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com will also join us. Big question is, when will Deshaun Watson's suspension news come down? So far, today is not the day. Eventually, Sue Robinson will in fact issue a ruling relative to the suspension of Deshaun Watson, and Browns fans waiting to hear that news. Josina Anderson from CBS Sports tweets out that she has had some conversations with league sources, and even they thought they'd have heard by now relative to the Deshaun Watson situation. Up through yesterday, this week, they've detected some all-around fatigue with everybody waiting to hear what exactly is Sue Robinson, the independent arbitrator's decision relative to the suspension of Deshaun Watson. Well, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, said there needs to be some sort of a sense of urgency for a couple of reasons with this Deshaun Watson decision by Sue Robinson.
We're in kind of a weird spot right now. 4 weeks ago today was day 2 of what was a 3-day hearing on whether and to what extent he's going to be disciplined under the personal conduct policy by independent disciplinary officer Judge Sue L. Robinson. It's been 2 weeks and 1 day since all the paperwork was submitted. We are just waiting, Chris. And at some point, she's got to make a decision, because if there's going to be appeals, there has to be an opportunity for that to happen before week 1. I mean, the clock really is ticking. I expected a decision on Monday, the 25th. I did say at some point this week, I'll be stunned if we don't have something by Friday. She's got to turn this around because there are more steps, and they have to know by week 1 what Deshaun Watson's status is. And look, I shed no tears for the Browns because they entered this with their eyes open. But the sooner they know what their plan will be, what their status is with Watson, they can make the appropriate preparations for who's going to play quarterback. They know how many weeks they won't have him. So the sooner that we know, the sooner the Browns have their plan in place, and it just needs to happen. It's been too long.
And then again, Mike Florio, former attorney, about that decision on Deshaun Watson. We'll hear a little bit later. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns feel they have a plan in place. Mike Florio also talked about what he's hearing as far as the expected suspension for Deshaun Watson, and also what happens after that's announced.
The Browns are bracing for 8. I was told that last week. And somebody with extensive knowledge of the case and has reviewed the submissions of the two parties put the range at 2 games to 8. But remember this, if any discipline at all is imposed by Judge Sue L. Robinson, an appeal can be made by the NFL to the commissioner, who can say, thank you, Judge Robinson, but you said 4, I say 17. Goodell still holds the final hammer here, and that's going to be a fascinating wrinkle because we've never seen this process before. So we watch, we wait, and we wonder what is going to happen.
And that about sums it up. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. Browns fan, national media, all waiting to hear what that suspension looks like, if there is one. Some news relative to training camp. Mary Kay Cabot tweets out, a number of Browns put on the physically unable to perform list. David Bell, rookie wide receiver, was put on it a couple days ago. Added to that list, Denzel Ward with his foot, Jack Conklin with the knee coming off surgery. Anthony Walker, that's a little bit of a surprise, on the non-football injury list with a groin injury, as was Sheldon Day. Some will miss a week, a couple, multiple weeks, but all expected to be ready to go week 1, according to Kevin Stefanski. Well, the Browns did get on the field and get into training camp mode out in Berea, at least kind of. No pads, really no helmets, but Deshaun Watson was playing quarterback with the little winter beanie on, throwing underneath to Nick Chubb there. A lot of walkthroughs, and Kevin Stefanski also said was happy everybody came in shape and ready to go. Again, a good look at some motion and some really exciting non-helmet, this is almost touch football. You see some of the ways they're going to move Deshaun Watson around and throw the football. But the good news is training camp is underway, and that is always a good thing for Browns fans. Kevin Stefanski talked about the question that everybody's asking, other than when are we going to hear about the Deshaun Watson suspension? How are you going to divvy up the training camp reps for the quarterbacks to get everybody ready to play? Remember, Deshaun Watson didn't practice all last year. So a lot of rust to knock off. You got to get Jacoby Brissett to play. You got to get the backups to play. Talked about the quarterback reps as well as the guys on the physically unable to perform list.
We always do. If you saw in the spring, we rotated Deshaun and Jacoby as well, so that really doesn't change. So the truth is we have to get all those guys ready to play. Doesn't mean that you divide the reps exactly evenly among 4 different guys, but we got to get all of them ready, and we have a plan to use all of them at different times.
So will Deshaun and Jacoby get equal first-team reps starting out?
Yeah, I wouldn't get into like the exact percentage, but they're both going to get a ton of reps. And really, Jake, I'd tell you, they both got a ton of reps in the spring. And I think that was the benefit of that offseason program, was getting Deshaun a ton of reps, getting Jacoby a ton of reps. So that doesn't change.
If there's a suspension that happens during training camp, does that change the way you're going to divvy out reps between those two guys?
I think we have a plan, and we'll see what information comes available, but certainly more information may adjust what we're doing, yes.
Kevin, is it disappointing that there isn't any information right now as you guys start training camp?
No, I just think that's the nature of this game, and I think player availability, we have to deal with that in game, and you get into the fourth quarter or the third quarter of a game, and that's our job to adjust. That's the player's job to be ready as a next man up mentality, as you've all heard 1,000 times before, and then it's our job as coaches to prepare everybody to play.
Is it Kevin, actually kind of that plan? You talked about this plan, you guys have a lot of wasted rep. Is it tough?
No, I think that's, again, we've got smart coaches up there, so they're doing a nice job.
Aren't you kind of anxious, Kevin, if that's the right word, to find out? I mean, I know we are.
Well, that's yeah, if you're anxious, Jeff, I can't help you. But I think we just deal with it. That's kind of our mentality. We're going to deal with July 27th, and then we'll get to tomorrow. We'll deal with tomorrow, but that's kind of how we operate.
Kevin, Josh Rosen was available since March, and yet it wasn't until the eve of reporting that he was brought in. Why was that?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Tony, other than to say we felt like we should add a 4th quarterback and brought Josh in for a workout and obviously signed him. But I wouldn't read too much into the timing of it.
Is it fair to say that if Deshaun is suspended, that Jacoby Brissett will be the Week 1 starter in his place, or did you bring in Rosen as a potential look to see if he could earn that spot?
No, Jacoby's our backup quarterback. If Deshaun's unavailable, Jacoby's the starter.
Can you give us an update on Denzel Ward and all those guys on PUP?
Yeah, I don't know the list of everybody who's on there, but Denzel is working through it. I'm confident in the next couple weeks he'll be out there, but he's coming along just fine. You know, I want to highlight Jack. He lived here all spring, all summer. I mean, I think he may have had a cot set up somewhere in the building, and he has been working so hard. And I notice it, his teammates notice it, so he's progressing. I don't have the exact date when he's back out there at practice. We'll make sure we work with the medical staff on that one, but he's worked really, really hard.
And Sheldon Day was the 4th guy yesterday. Do you expect all those guys ready for Week 1?
Yes.
David Bell, that was a football injury because he's on PUP.
Right.
So when did that happen?
Late in the off-season program. I don't know the exact, might have been in that mini camp. Had something nagging, took a look at it, but ultimately we'll be okay.
Have you addressed with the team? I know you said you guys have a plan and idea what you're going to do when and if news comes down. Have you addressed the team, though, about the Deshaun situation and just being prepared for anything that might occur?
Well, as you know, Darryl, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what we talk about, but with our team, and all 32 teams do this, there are things that come your way that you got to be able to deal with day to day, week to week, month to month. So those are not unusual for an NFL team to deal with things like that. But it really, I go back to what I said earlier. We're going to deal with what's in front of us that day.
Kevin, and already determining that Brissett's going to be your starter if Watson is out, what have you seen from him, Jacoby, that gives you confidence?
I think Jacoby, evaluating him before we brought him in here. I think everybody saw a decision maker, a big athlete, a person that could make all the throws. I think that was exciting. Then just being around and being in the meeting rooms with him, I think his ability to lead, his ability to understand defenses, I've been very impressed.
How difficult is it for him? He doesn't know if he's going to start. He's got to share reps with Deshaun and still get ready for this season.
Yeah, I think that's the life of a backup quarterback. I think Alex Van Pelt has a unique insight into backup quarterbacks and how you prepare, so that's kind of how you operate. You got to be ready to go.
Kevin Stefanski talking about how the Browns are going to work through the Deshaun Watson situation at quarterback. Well, whoever the Browns quarterback is, the number one wide receiver is going to be Amari Cooper. And out of Dallas today, some not so flattering words about Deshaun Watson, clouding his overall performance. Amari Cooper's lack of effort on the Cowboys' final futile drive of the season, that was a year ago, helped sour the franchise, according to an NFL source, on keeping the $20 million a year receiver heading into 2022. Goes on to say the Cowboys don't necessarily think he quit, but let's just say they found his effort in the end troubling. Also in that, by Fan Nation, there was a thing that said he kind of shrunk in the moment and did not kind of show his best when you want it on the line. And again, it's a revisionist history. You always hear those kind of things after a guy leaves a place. I don't think the Browns are too concerned about the effort of Amari Cooper, without question. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we will hear more from Myles Garrett, Greg Newsom at today's training camp. Sports4CLE. We'll be talking Browns on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns' first day of training camp, and with an expected suspension coming for Deshaun Watson, defense is going to have to step it up. Myles Garrett, talking to the media today out at Berea in training camp, talked about his role as a leader in trying to help this defensive line become elite.
I know we lost some inside guys, and got a lot of young guys that we have to work with, and some newer guys who haven't been on this team before. So just trying to pull them along, make sure that they know the playbook, know what they're doing, know their assignments, alignments, and make sure they're coming off the ball and not thinking. They're just doing it. They're just executing.
Are your expectations for the season the same regardless of how long Deshaun plays, how long he doesn't play, and that whole situation?
Yeah, it doesn't change regardless of how that situation works itself out, and we're going to hold ourselves to a high standard, no matter what happens. Defense is going to do what they do, and last time I heard, they can't win if they don't score points.
Do you feel more will be needed from the defense depending on how much time Deshaun can miss?
No. I mean, the offense always needs our best, and so it's not going to change when he's not on the field or he is on the field. We're always going to do our very best job that we can and execute how we know we should.
as a leader, is that the message you're amplifying to your guys, that whether Deshaun's out there or not, we just got to be us?
Yeah, I mean, just be yourself. Play the game. You don't play the level of your opponent or, to the level of, the offense or special teams. We play up to our standard and, what we look forward to doing throughout this whole season, not just, however many games, he's out or he's in.
Miles, last year team chemistry was a big talking point as far as this team and what happened. With your QB, with his uncertainty, how do you maintain that team chemistry? How do you build it when there's a chance Deshaun might not be on the field to start the season?
I mean, you move as if, he will be or won't be. You don't really keep it in your mind like that. I mean, he's on the field with us right now. He will be on the field with us throughout preseason, training and working out. He's going to be in the weight room. He's going to be interacting with us. He's going to be with us for all intents and purposes. Just keep on moving how they have been, especially the young guys a little bit earlier. Just keep on working out, keep on doing their best. I feel like once we get to the season, it'll all work itself out.
Miles, what's your impression then of Jacoby Brissett?
I think he's very quality quarterback. I think he's a solid player. I think he'll come in and be a good leader for us, even when he's not on the field and when he's on the field. I think he's talented enough to win games by himself. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do.
You said you want to keep the same standard regardless of what happens. Is part of that due to what you've seen from Brissett so far? What he can give you a quarterback?
Part of that is to do with what I expect out of myself and our group as a defense. So it has nothing to do with Jacoby. I believe in his ability, but I'm putting the pressure on us because I know what we have in store.
Miles, I know it's a little far off, but have you given any thoughts on maybe having to sack Baker in week 1?
Not really. I know some of my friends were, but I keep it to them. They can make their jokes. They have fun with it. But I have a lot of time with Jacoby and all these other quarterbacks that I've seen before, Dobbs. So just being able to work against them, working against Jed, and just trying to improve on my technique and my fundamentals, and drive those points home with some of the younger guys. That's how I'm really focused about. Week 1 and all that. That's yet to come. We still got preseason games and other things we got to worry about.
Miles, you alluded to some of the youth and inexperience on the interior of the defensive line. What do you know about some of those guys, and how do you maybe help bring them along to, be as impactful or play at the level that you're going to need them to play?
I mean, for what I've seen, they have a very high attention to detail. In the classroom, but when the bullets start flying, you got to see how attentive they really are. When you're tired and things are moving fast, got to see if you can still stay in the moment, keep it grounded, get rid of the last play, and still execute. And I believe the guys can, but we got to make sure that we see it and we keep on repping it.
How much is it? Knowing how high your expectations are for your defense this season, can you put into words just how good, how dominant you think this group can be this year?
As dominant as we want to be. I feel like that last year, and I feel like this year. We have a lot of talented guys all across the board, and I feel like this is probably the most well-rounded we've been since I've been here. So just try to make the most of it and make plays all up and down the field and take the ball away.
The defense seemed to get stronger and play better as the year went on last year. Can you carry that forward, or do you come in with the mindset the slate's been wiped clean, you guys are kind of resetting and starting over?
I mean, you take a little bit from last year, of course. You can't just wipe it completely clean. You have to play off of the good and wash away the bad. But I think the main thing last year is that we had to work on our consistency, and that's what we saw really down the stretch. We were very consistent in our approaches, and from drive to drive, we weren't having all these ups and downs. We were staying pretty consistent.
Miles, you mentioned the pressure on yourselves no matter the situation. Do you enjoy that pressure? That's going to be on your group.
Yeah, I mean it's all going to be put on us. So we'll go out there and make the most of it. Either crush or mix diamonds.
You talked about the interior guys. Is it difficult for you having those two guys change out from last year to this year? The year before to last year?
I was about to say, it's pretty sure that happened the year before too. So I should be used to it. But you get attached to some of the guys that you have before. Good guys, friendly faces. You build chemistry, and then you just kind of have to, like you said, wipe the slate clean and keep it moving. But these guys are fortunately enough for me, they've always been, quality people, easy to work with, easy to be able to sit down and, go through and polish out some of the things you want to do, because it's not the same from team to team, and especially from the transition from college to NFL. So being able to get that time with those guys, get those extra reps and extra mental reps, that's priceless.
Miles, off that, how important, like offensive line, we know it's important with guard and tackle, right? How important is it for you to have that chemistry with your D tackle?
I mean, it's necessary. When you see some of the best, DEs or outside linebackers, is because their inside is getting a lot of pressure. Their inside linemen are causing the quarterback to either step back or not be able to step up, and that's when you see a lot of guys either beating the guy inside and like walking right into him, or bending the edge at 5-6 yards, and the quarterback's still standing right there. So knowing what he's going to do, where he's going to be at, he's applying constant pressure, or knowing that they can't run the ball up the middle because those two are holding it down, it's a weight off my shoulders.
Myles Garrett talking about how he expects the defense to be elite this year. Greg Newsom, second-year cornerback. Best thing you can say about a rookie cornerback is they didn't throw at him. That's what you can say about Greg Newsom. He talked about just the difference going into his second year and what this defense needs to do to be elite.
I just feel 10 times more comfortable. Like, I feel like I'm in junior year in college, where I know the scheme, I know the guys, I know where they're going to be on the plays, so I just feel a lot more comfortable. Some of those plays where I messed up maybe mentally, is to, correct those and just to be a better leader this year, be a lot more vocal, and yeah, those are my goals.
What are your expectations for the team this season, and are those expectations the exact same regardless of what kind of news you get on Deshaun Watson?
Oh, for sure. Our expectations, is just to go 1-0 every game. We talked about that yesterday. Obviously, every team should be, wanting to win a Super Bowl. I mean, if you're not playing a game wanting to win a Super Bowl, then why are you playing a game? But, our focus is just to go 1-0 every day. And, it starts on the field tomorrow.
How tough is the uncertainty, not knowing if or how long you'll have, your franchise quarterback?
Yeah, I don't think it's tough. We got guys preparing like they're the number one anyways. Like John said before, Brissett is going to play like he's the number one regardless. If not, he's shown it multiple times in his career where he had to step in and be the number one. Josh can get out there and do the same thing. So, Stefanski's going to have them, ready to go regardless of who's out there.
What's your impressions of Brissett so far?
Veteran. You can tell. Poised. He's always going to do the right thing, make sure the ball's in the right spot. He's been great so far.
He's got a reputation kind of as a game manager. Do you see more than that?
Yeah, for sure. He can put the ball down the field. He throws the ball deep to Schwartz a lot, as he, goes with the twos a lot. So I definitely think he can air it out too as well.
Do you feel like that, regardless of, if it is Jacoby, that puts more pressure on you guys defensively? Because obviously, if they don't score any points, that increases your chances of winning. So does that situation put more pressure on your side of the football?
Oh, no, not at all. The talent I think we have on this defense, we're going to have pressure no matter what. We feel like, we want to be the best defense in the NFL. So regardless if, Jacoby's out there, Josh, or Deshaun, we're going to have that pressure on ourselves regardless.
Greg, the plan in OTAs and minicamp was for you to move inside a lot. Is that still on?
Yeah, as of right now, I think it is. Whether I need to play outside, inside, I can do it all. So, whatever they need me to do that day or that game, I'll be able to do it.
Play to player moving from outside to inside, that can happen too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Doesn't challenge you more than knowing where you're going to be the whole game?
Nah, the way I prepare for, all scenarios, whether if I have to play in the boundary to the field, inside, outside, I know what our safeties are doing, so I'm going to be comfortable regardless.
Myles has such high expectations for the team and for the defense. He just was telling us you guys can be as dominant as you want to be on defense this season. How does he sort of set the tone for you guys, and has he verbalized, yet just how important this season is to all you guys?
Not himself yet, but everyone in the building knows we can take us as far as we want to take us. It's just going to start off every day, coming to practice, working hard, and just kind of learning each other again. We're still a fairly new group. I mean, this is year 2 for a lot of us together, so we're getting more comfortable, but we're going to take us as far as we want to go.
How much does it help, though, that you guys, I mean, that's secondary. You guys were together last year. You played a lot together last year. What kind of difference does that make?
Oh, it makes a big difference. As you can see later in the season, we kind of start, getting together a lot more and working together. So, and we're going to come in healthy. I mean, last year, obviously, we had different combinations every game. So now that we see that, we can play with a bunch of combinations out there, I think we're going to have trust in each other, and we're definitely going to be ready to go from game 1 this year.
Have you given any thoughts, like just how good this secondary can be? Can you guys be the best secondary in the league?
Oh, for sure. I think that's our aspiration. On paper, I think we can be that, but we got to show that we can do it on the field every game. It was games last year where we showed we were really dominant, and then there was games where it looked like we took a step back. So we're going to find a way to be consistent every game.
Greg Newsom talking about the defense. The defensive guys expect this to be a really good defense. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll head out to Berea. Browns beat reporter from Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, Dan Labbe will join us. Sports4CLE talking Browns from the training camp facility in Berea. Stay with us.
Selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues from the Browns training facility, training camp out in Berea, along with Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter from cleveland.com, as well as Plain Dealer. And Dan, first day of training camp, some news coming out during the week. Guys on the physically unable to perform non-football injury list. You had Jack Conklin. You also had Anthony Walker, David Bell, Denzel Ward. Of all of those, who concerns you a lot? Who is it not quite as concerning?
Ward is not a big surprise. He was in a walking boot at his camp, and, he'll be back at some point. Conklin, not a big surprise either as he walks back from that knee injury. But, I think David Bell, not being able to see him out here, he's going to start in the slot, or at least that seemed like the plan in the spring. So to not have him out there, to not have him get those reps with Jacoby, Brissett, and Deshaun Watson and kind of get himself ready. We've seen rookies before struggle when they haven't been able to have a full camp. So I think that's probably the most concerning. Now, I think if he's back in 2 weeks maybe, I think he'll be okay as long as he gets some preseason work in. But that's probably the most concerning, just based on his role and based on what we've seen with rookies getting hurt in the past.
Yeah, and look no further than last year when Anthony Schwartz couldn't go at the beginning of training camp, and it kind of was an uphill climb.
Yeah, and the good thing is Bell got a lot of work in during the spring. Schwartz was hurt during the spring as well last year, and it was kind of a weird, shortened off-season program for him. But Bell at least got a lot of work in the spring. He's lockered next to Deshaun Watson, so he's learning all of this stuff. He's learning it in warp speed. So I think he'll be okay. But if we do start to get to 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, or he comes back and he re-injures it, then you start to really get concerned.
Is that something you think prompts them to go out and look at a veteran wide receiver? Up till now, they really haven't wanted to do that.
I've thought they should all along. I think they're a receiver short still, honestly. Now, maybe somebody steps up, like an Anthony Schwartz or one of these undrafted rookies or one of those guys kind of steps up. But I would like to see them maybe go after a veteran guy. I've wanted them to do that even when David Bell was healthy. Like you said, they don't seem to have much of an appetite for that. But maybe you could see something, when the cut down to 53 happens. It could take that long. But I think they're going to kind of go with what they have.
As we talk, at this point in the afternoon, still nothing from Sue L. Robinson in terms of a Deshaun Watson suspension. It doesn't seem to be bothering the guys. I mean, you listen to it, and it doesn't seem forced. It's like, yeah, no, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and part of it is like, what are you going to do? You know, you can't rush it. You can't call her up and say, come on, can we get a decision here? So part of it, I think, is just sort of what are you going to do? You're just going to stay focused. And I do think deep down inside, these guys know, look, there'll be some sort of suspension. So they understand this is going to be Jacoby Brissett's show for whether it's 4 games, 8 games, a whole season. So I just think they're prepared for all of that. And I don't think there's a ton of, I think they believe they can win, especially because we heard from defensive guys today. They believe they can win with whoever's at quarterback. So, I think they're sort of resigned to whatever might happen, and they'll get Deshaun Watson on the field eventually.
Yeah, and the defense, they were asked a number of different ways. Do you have to step up? Do you have to play better if it's not Deshaun Watson? And the answer was, I think it was Myles Garrett said, last time I checked, if the other team doesn't score, we win.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is if you hold a team to 0 or 3 points, right? You're probably going to score more than them. And this defense really believes they can be one of the best in the league. Myles already knows, he's got that 99 Madden rating. He kind of downplayed it today, but he likes having that 99 Madden rating. He knows how good the pass rush can be. Greg Newsom believes this can be the best secondary in the league. I think at worst it could be a top 5 secondary and maybe even a top 5 defense overall. So, I think they believe they can carry this team no matter what. And we've seen it before where you have teams where you talk so much about the offense and how good the quarterback can be. And you have an offensive head coach, and then what happens, the defense steps up and carries them. And I think this defense has that potential.
And if you look back to last year, the second half of the year, the defense played pretty well.
Yeah, they played well enough, and that's part of why there's a new quarterback. They played well enough to win those games. They basically won the Detroit game. They won the second Baltimore game. They should have won the first Baltimore game after those 4 turnovers. They held Green Bay to 3 points in the second half on Christmas. Should have won that football game if the offense would have done something. So this defense, after the New England debacle, this defense was as good as any defense in the league.
All right, so word came out today about the Cowboys kind of downplaying Amari Cooper's role. It said he kind of shrunk in the moment and dogged it in the playoffs. I don't know where I saw that. It sounds like a guy that's left is kind of getting thrown under the bus a little bit to me.
Yeah, it seems like it. And, look, I think the Amari Cooper trade was one of the best moves they made this offseason because you got, at worst, a number 2 type of receiver. He's kind of on that border, right? He's not Devontae Adams. He's not, probably not Jamar Chase, probably not that top group, but he's right there in between those 1 and 2 guys. And you got him for like a 5th-round pick. And you're paying him $20 million, which seemed like a lot at the time, but now it's not. You're seeing these wide receiver contracts just absolutely balloon. So if that's what the Cowboys believe, the Browns will take him. They don't mind because Amari Cooper is going to be this team's number 1 receiver. And if Deshaun Watson plays, when he plays, those two are going to have a great connection.
Dan Labbe and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will return to the Browns training facility in Berea as day 1 of training camp. Sports4CLE will be right back with more Browns coverage.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues from the Browns training facility in Berea, day one of training camp, along with Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. I'm Dave Bacon. And Dan, what are some of the things we need to see in training camp? Some of the big questions.
Well, the quarterbacks, right? Like we talked about in the other segment, we got to see what these quarterbacks look like, but not so much Jacoby. Let's see what Josh Jobs looks like. Let's see what Josh Rosen looks like, because what you don't want to have happen is Jacoby Brissett, who normally hasn't gotten hurt, but you just never know in this game, goes out in week one, gets injured, and you just don't know what you have in Rosen or Dobbs. So you got to feel good about one of those two guys as your backup quarterback if Deshaun Watson's suspended. I also want to see the linebackers. I want to see how they line those guys up. How do they deploy Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah? Is Jacob Phillips your Mike linebacker? Anthony Walker's not going to be out there, so that gives Phillips more of an opportunity. So I want to see how they use those guys. And then really sticking with that defensive side, Greg Newsom, where does he play? I think he's going to play a lot in the slot. He was there in the spring. He's talked about playing in the slot. They were cross-training him there last year. He did a little bit of it last year in games. How much is he inside, and how much are other guys inside as well?
When you look at that linebacking core, Owusu-Koramoah and Phillips, if they go with that two linebacker look, those are guys that run like safeties, don't they?
Yeah, we talk so much about JOK as like the prototypical linebacker that they like. Jacob Phillips has a little bit of that in him too. He's not quite as dynamic as Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but he's got that athleticism. High production guy at LSU, had a ton of tackles. So I think there's a lot of excitement about what Jacob Phillips can do. They picked him in the third round. When you take a guy in the third round, you want him to be a player for you. And I think they believe he can be that Mike linebacker and play a lot of snaps behind JOK.
And I think the other thing that they need to do is he just needs to stay healthy. I mean, he's been banged up his first two seasons.
Yeah, I think they had big plans for him last year, and then he ruptured his biceps or tore his whatever it's called. He did something to his biceps, and he was out for most of the year and never got going. So the fact that he came back from that injury, I would probably never play again if something like that happened to me. So I think they're very excited about what he can bring. And when you have those athletic linebackers with a fast secondary that can cover, you can really have a dynamic back seven.
Defensive tackle, that's another area that's questioned, and it's because there are young guys. Myles Garrett talked about how important it is to have the chemistry between the tackles and the ends on defense, and that's something that this team has to sort out. There's an opportunity for young guys. Who's going to step up?
Well, Perrion Winfrey, I think, is the guy, obviously, they want to step up. They brought him in because he's got that ability to create pressure. And I'm actually kind of with Myles. I believe that pressure on the inside helps an end more than pressure on the other side. When you have a guy next to you who can rush the passer and cause problems up the middle, it makes life so much easier for Myles and Jadeveon Clowney. So we've sort of been waiting on Jordan Elliott, right? We've sort of been waiting on Tommy Togiai. Perrion Winfrey has an opportunity. He can win that starting job right away. Now, he was a fourth-round pick, so maybe you temper your expectations a little bit, but I know they're excited about him, and he's got a chance to maybe win that job and be that guy that creates pressure up the middle.
And a guy that I think could be sneaky. Tell me what you think. Taven Bryan is a guy, first-round pick. And Andrew Berry seems to go and find guys. It's like, okay, he wasn't quite used the way we want to use him.
Yeah, it's that Moneyball approach in a lot of ways. I think Tack McKinley was a great example of that. Former first-round pick. They did a lot of work on him in the draft. And when he was available, you got him kind of an inefficiency. He comes in, you put him in the exact right role for him. So you're not asking him to be your number 2 edge rusher. You're asking him to go out there on third downs, rush the passer. Taven Bryan could be the same thing. You find the right role for him, the right price. He's got those attributes, right? Those traits that made him a first-round pick. So if you can find a way to tap into that and put him in the right spot, he can produce. He's kind of the forgotten guy, I think, because they signed him early. It was sort of okay, that's fine. But there is an opportunity for him.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they signed him early kind of gives you an idea. They knew what they wanted to do, and they have a role in mind for him. Let me ask you about Anthony Schwartz. That's a guy that, you look at him and world-class speed, he kind of defines that. Is he a guy that if he kind of figures it all out that could really elevate and be – are the Browns thinking, we're going to unlock him?
I think they're still high on him. I still think they believe he can be a guy for this team. Obviously his rookie season was disappointing. You pointed out the injuries that he suffered in that last segment. And I think that held him back. I thought we didn't see a lot of that speed last year, even when he had the football in his hands. We just didn't see the speed. Now, I was a little surprised. I did a 53-man roster, and I got him on there. I was planning to get him on there. It got a little tighter than I thought, though. So, you've got Dearness Johnson, Demetric Felton, Anthony Schwartz. If he gets off to a slow start or he's struggling with injuries, I think there's a 99% chance he makes the roster, but you do start to get a little tight with that numbers game. So I think he's got to show them something here in camp and in the preseason.
Yeah, and Jakeem Grant is going to be the return guy, so that takes away that element of it. What do you think? What can fans expect from Jacoby Brissett, assuming he's going to be a starting quarterback for 4, 6, how many ever games?
He's going to take care of the football. I think that's the thing that stands out. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He's a little bit of a game manager. He's not going to be throwing the ball down the field. It's not going to look like Deshaun Watson, obviously. But I think you can expect a guy that can give you enough at the position to win games, especially if your defense is playing at the level you believe they can. It might be 20-17. It might be 16-10. Whatever it is, he's going to keep you afloat, and that's sort of the way to define him, I think. He did a little bit in Indianapolis as well. They got off to a really good start one year with him as the starter, and then it kind of fell apart. But he's not going to go to Green Bay and throw 4 interceptions. That's something he's not going to do, and that alone is going to help you win some games that maybe you shouldn't otherwise.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Dan.
Absolutely.
Make sure you read Dan Labbe, pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Sports4CLE will be right back with more Browns training camp. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the ruling that Sue L. Robinson will eventually come down with.
Hi, this is Joshua in Toledo, Ohio. As always, I love the show. Keep up the great work. Appreciate it. This is about the Deshaun Watson possible suspension. That seems to be the only thing that people talk about is the suspension. But from my understanding of what Sue Robinson is looking at as possible punishments, there's 4 possible options. There's no punishment, there's a suspension, there's a fine, and there's a suspension and a fine. I guess my question is, if she decides there's no suspension, but she decides that that he should be fined instead, for example, let's say she asks for 50% of his base salary and 50% of his signing bonus back as a fine, can she do that? And would the NFL be able to appeal just the fine? Because if she finds no suspension equals no punishment, and per the CBA, they can't, as far as I know, the NFL cannot appeal that part of the decision, but it is possible they could appeal the fine. Thanks a lot. Appreciate all the good work you guys do, and thanks for the help. Bye.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. So, Hayden, I don't know why they would appeal any fine. If there is no suspension, they can't appeal that. And you know, if there is no suspension, that's it. He gets on the field. She can, in fact, issue a fine. but the NFL wouldn't necessarily appeal that, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that whole situation, to be honest with you. I think that it's taken a while, and I think that both sides are kind of asking why it's taken so long. But yeah, I mean, I think that, if he was on the field, I don't think that, or you're right. If he's not suspended, I think he would take the field, and I don't think there would be much pushback from the NFL.
No, they want to move on and keep talking about football and get this in the rearview mirror as quickly as possible. Deshaun Watson on the field. I know you were out there. What did you see?
Nothing. I mean, they were just walking around today. I mean, he seems to have command of the offense, but you could say the same about Baker Mayfield and others. So, no, today was not a good day to give you anything. I mean, I think it was just kind of like one of those syllabus days when you're in college where you just show up and they give you kind of the rundown and then you leave. I think they had a conditioning test after, and that was probably the hardest part of the day for them, but we weren't, permitted to see that, to view that. So, there was nothing much to give you today.
No helmets, no shoulder pads, no anything like that. Basically, a walkthrough is what they were doing. Well, I guess that makes sense. That's kind of the MO of the way the Browns with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are. We're going to ramp up because we want to make sure, want to take every precaution we can to make sure that when we finally put helmets and pads on and start hitting, nobody gets needlessly put in harm's way as far as injury goes.
Yeah, I mean, if they are trying to make the playoffs, it's a long, long, long season. It's a long season regardless. So, I wouldn't say that there's much in the way of, rush to get them hurrying to get on the field, to get in pads. Just think they do want to take it slow.
All right, let's turn the attention to this. As you think about what the Browns need to get done in camp, what do we need to see fan-wise? I'll talk to the fans. If we see this, you'll feel better about them early in camp.
Better about the Browns or better about
better
Deshaun?
About the Browns. Just better about the Browns. What do we need to see from the Browns early in training camp so fans can go, all right, they're going in the right direction?
I think we've already seen it. I think that's Kevin Stefanski's offense just being different than it was last year. I think last year it was way too vanilla, and maybe it's because of Deshaun Watson, the quarterback that he is, that things have changed, and that's great. But they needed to revamp that offense. They needed to overhaul it. And I think that that's exactly what they've done, which is what they needed to do. So I think you've already seen it. You've seen a lot of misdirection. You've seen a lot of, different formations, different guys in different personnel groupings. It's already looking a lot better and a lot more dynamic than it has. So I don't think there's much else that they need to see at this point to be convinced that things are going to be different.
Yeah, you do mention that. And I know you've been out at camp and mini camp, and we haven't seen a whole lot in training camp yet. What is eye-opening about what they do or what they have done in what limited things that we've seen offensively?
I think it's the option. I think that they've run a lot of option football. They've kind of used Deshaun Watson's ability, mobility, to kind of use as a. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to use it all the time, but put themselves in a pistol formation where with a guy to your right and a guy behind you and play a little triple option football. It throws defenses off. It has worked at the professional level. Maybe it's not as not as great at the professional level because you haven't had that many mobile quarterbacks. But it works for a guy like Lamar Jackson. It could definitely work for a guy like Deshaun. I think Deshaun's 3 times a better passer than Lamar Jackson is. So I love the option football. The misdirection. That's what I'm talking about. Your play action booting one way, and then the guy comes back from the other side and becomes an option, pitch option guy. There's a lot of different formations and ways to use that, and I love it. I think it's genius, and I think it's what Kevin Stefanski really needed to do with this offense.
Yeah, you mentioned the pistol formation, so that's shotgun formation, running back behind. Mm-hmm. The Texans used some RPOs with him, where it's the run pass option. Could you see that? And when that happens, you're screaming tight ends over the middle.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're looking for. That's exactly what they want. They want the RPOs. They want the run pass options. I mean, they have a ton of stuff that they can do with the run pass option. I mean, they have 2 great running backs, one of which can catch really well out of the backfield, the other which, is still serviceable. You have a quarterback that can move. You have, that's really what you need defensive lines are going to be guessing all day long. What are they throwing at us? What are they going to do? You know, you're kind of in a, by doing that, you're kind of proving a defensive line unable to fully commit to stopping the run, fully commit to stopping the pass. Like, you're kind of keeping them, you know, keeping their hands not as tough in the dirt. Like, you know, they say, like, when you're pushing down, when you're pushing down here, you know, you can see, you know, somebody, if they're really trying to get forward, you're going to kind of have to keep them in that middle balanced state. So that's exactly what they're trying to do, to try to, you know, keep these guys guessing on the defensive end of the football.
Yeah, and to play off the other thing that you said there, if you have a defensive line that can't commit to the run, can't commit to the pass, same thing with the linebackers. Think about Kareem Hunt, think about Nick Chubb, the way they run over guys. If you're not fully committed coming downhill at them, they're going to run you over a good percentage of the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what they want. And, you know, if you have them guessing, that's great. As an offensive line, you feel like, man, they don't know what's coming. We're going to, you know, we're able to steamroll them. Or they think the pass is coming. They're going to come hard. Well, guess what? We're going to, you know, we're going to let them kind of olay and get through that, you know, get to where they're not filling their gaps. I mean, it's a great thing, and it's exactly what the Browns need.
Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, talk a little defense. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Browns training camp underway out in Berea. Day one today. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Baker Mayfield.
Big Browns fan, long-time watcher of the show. I've called a few times. I just have a question for you. Help me make this make sense. When the Browns had Baker Mayfield trying to trade him, the media trashed Baker Mayfield and why the Browns weren't going to get no picks for him, and he wasn't worth anything. So fast forward to the trade to Carolina. Now all of a sudden, oh man, Carolina's playoff ready. You know what I mean? It seems like the narrative changed through the media. So it makes me feel like they bashed Cleveland for no reason. Why? Because we gave Deshaun Watson all that money. But I feel like you bashed Baker when he was here, that he wasn't worth anything. But now that he's gone, he's the next coming of John Elway or something. Help me make that make sense. Go Browns.
All right, as always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Hey, there are some people that think that Carolina is going to be better with him. I don't think he can turn around the ills of Carolina. That's a football team that needs a talent infusion, to be honest with you. I don't necessarily know that it was. I think what the media was saying about Baker Mayfield is they knew the Browns were going to trade him, and that forced his value down. I think that was what they were saying.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, Baker Mayfield in reality was probably worth, maybe a second and a third. I mean, but the fact that they already had Deshaun Watson, the fact they had their quarterback room set, there was no leverage. The Browns didn't have any leverage, and nobody believed that. And then, they get a conditional fourth. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. I think they were lucky to get a conditional fourth. I think they got a conditional fourth because Baker decided that he was going to pay some of the money back, and the Browns were going to pay half of that. So, I think that Baker's going to be just fine in Carolina. I think you're right. I don't think they're a very good football team. Christian McCaffrey has proven that he can't stay healthy. And they don't have much talent. I don't know what's going to happen with Robbie Anderson. I mean, he obviously has a problem with Baker Mayfield as it is. So that's a talent issue down there. You're right. And I think that they should probably be looking at the future in terms of maybe a guy like C.J. Stroud, maybe a guy like, the kid from Alabama. I mean, there's options there. But I don't think that anybody's saying Baker Mayfield's going to be the next coming of John Elway. Again, Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's going to take them to the promised land.
No, I would agree. And I think the fact that the way that went down with the Deshaun Watson and the Baker Mayfield, I think that tells you the Browns were a little bit surprised that Watson came back and agreed to waive his no-trade clause to come here. I don't think they were expecting that, and I think that's how that all played out. We heard Myles Garrett and Greg Newsom talk about this defense and how they expect to play. What did you take away? I know you heard that. We were there when they were talking. What did you take away from listening to Myles and Greg Newsom talking today?
I think that Myles said it best, that they can be as dominant as they want to be. I think they have some really good pieces. He said they're as well-rounded as they've been, and I kind of agree with that. They have, some really good depth at the secondary spots, which is great. They have kind of an infusion of linebacker talent with Jacob Phillips coming in. I think he's going to have a great year. JOK's there. Chase Winovich brings an added element there too. So I'm excited to see what they can do defensively. I don't think on paper it's a dominant unit, but that's okay sometimes. Sometimes you don't need on paper to be a dominant unit. We've seen a lot of on paper good things and a lot of paper Super Bowls for the Browns. So I think that if Myles can come out and be dominant, Jadeveon Clowney can come out and be dominant, that sets the tone for the rest of the defense. It really does.
A lot of young guys as well. So you would expect this to be a defense that kind of ascends. You look at Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Greg Newsom, couple of rookies from last year. I'm curious to see how Martin Emerson fits in. If they took him at that position, they clearly have a plan for him.
Yeah, they have a plan for him because, they traded Troy Hill right away. They said, we're going to move Greg inside, and we're going to let Martin Emerson be a part of our plan. So, yeah, he's going to come in and as a third rounder, be somebody that they're going to count on. They're going to count on him to be a productive member of this football team. And, Greg Newsom was saying today just how big he is and how physical he can be. And that's kind of different than Denzel and Greg. Those guys are small. They're not very big and physical. And maybe that's, something that Martin Emerson can bring that they desperately, they don't really have. So I'm looking forward to seeing his skill set and how it's going to work with the guys that he's covering.
Now, you mentioned you don't think this defense will be dominant. Do you still think it's going to be pretty good? I mean, there's dominant defenses. You think of, the front seven that kind of goes and just tears up the other offensive line. The back half of this defense has a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism.
Yeah, I think that when I think of a dominant defense, I think of guys that just stop the run and just pound you, But maybe this defense will be different because I think that they do have such spectacular cover guys. I think they are really good in the secondary. And I think that that's kind of the MO of this front office, is to get guys that can guard receivers. So if you just have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney pressure the quarterback and make him make a decision within 3 to 5 seconds, and you got guys that can lock guys out down the outside, then maybe you will have a dominant defense. But I think that dominant's the wrong word. I think it's just like you're going to have like a ball hawking defense. You're going to have, a defense that shuts down the pass. I think the run game still could be an issue because, your guys inside are really young and you got some linebackers that I'm not so sure about. But what I will say is that they have the ability to stop a pass, which is hugely important in a passing league.
Yeah, I mean that's where I was going with this. This is a passing league. If you can run and cover, your defense should be just fine.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between, I think it's just a matter of words. Dominant isn't the word I would use, because when you dominate a defense, I think of the run. I think of, tackling hard, and I think of, popping the football out and just being aggressive up front. But I think in the back end is where they're going to be dominant. And that's it's just a little more finesse, I guess I would say.
Hayden Grove, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Hayden.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
All right, Hayden Grove, make sure you read them. Pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock talking plenty of Browns training camp. Maybe we'll actually finally get a Deshaun Watson decision by then on that suspension hearing. Sports4CLE, see you tomorrow at 4. Have a great night, everybody.